YouTube, Nick here. I'm coming at you with a new chess video. It's been a couple weeks since my last game, but I just played uh, an over-the-board game last night, which I'm really proud of. It was a King's Indian defense game. Um, a lot of the games I've showed you guys so far, in fact, I think every single one has been either E4 or C4. I don't think I've showed you guys a game yet where I show you what I like to do against D4. Which is one of the most common first moves, but here I had a good game against it. And I know a lot of chess players out there are looking for a weapon against d4 because it's such a solid first move, leads to a lot of solid openings like the Queen's Gambit Declined or the Slav Defense, which are okay to play. But one of my favorite ways to respond against it is with the King's Indian Defense. I already made a video on how I play the King's Indian Defense against one c4. In either way, it could start out like this, where if they start with one c4 and then you play knight f6 and then they play d4, or it can happen like it happened in this game, d4, knight f6, c4. All right, so now the next move is g6. If you want to play King's Indian, they play knight c3, bishop g7, and this video I'm going to try something new. I'm going to have a little board up in the corner. You'll see it as you're watching. That way, if my camera moves around like this and comes off the board for a second, it's not too disorienting and you'll just be able to follow the moves in the corner of the video. But I really like showing you guys the moves over the board like this. I think it's more fun to watch visually. But okay, so bishop g7, now e4 and d6. This is the King's Indian Defense. And if you're an intermediate or beginner player seeing this position for the first time, you may say what a lot of really good players in the early 20th century said right before this opening really took off. You might say, isn't white just dominating here? White literally has everything they want, right? They've got e4, d4, and c4. They've got knight out. And, isn't white just dominating the center? And you're kind of right. But what black's doing is they're saying, all right, I'm going to give white everything they want, and I'm going to attack, and I'm going to play against it. That's the sort of the spirit of this opening. So now you're supposed to castle as black. And this is the King's Indian Defense setup. You've got a fianchettoed bishop. This dark squared bishop is instrumental to the defense of your king, and it is usually one of your best pieces in the King's Indian. You really want to hold on to this position, to this piece, because it's very important positionally speaking. This knight is also pretty critical to the defense of your king, but as you see in this game, I really use these two pieces in my attack, but I don't. I'm very, very deliberate with how I move them. I don't just move them just to move them. Let's see, what else can I say? This d6 pawn is really good at dealing with these three center pawns, because you have options of breaking in on e5 and c5, so you have flexible sort of pawns, whereas white's pawns are not as flexible, I feel. Yeah, all right, so let's just continue with how the game's going. All right, so after black castles there, white played knight f3 first, and then I castled, and then white played bishop e2, and now I played knight bd7 to support the e5 break. I think I could have gone e5 right away, but I decided I wanted to just further support it before I actually did it, because I want to bring this knight into the game anyways, so why not support it? And you might say, why not knight c6? Because I thought that was just begging for him to play d5 with tempo. I'd rather him not get d5 off of tempo, so that's why I decided knight bd7. Now he castled, and I played e5, as was my intention with putting my knight there. I was expecting him to either take the pawn or even more so, I was expecting him to push d5, but he did neither of those things. He did what I think is actually the best move. He played bishop g5, attacking my knight, and provoking me to play h6, like I played in the game. The computer thinks that bishop g5 is the best move here, but like I said, I just kick it away, and I think d5 is a bit more annoying practically, because now I play h6, and then here's another mistake. He pulls the bishop to h4. I think he should have pulled it back to e3, where it was supporting the center more. Because there I have the option of just kicking it again with g5. But first what I do is I take in the center, which Stockfish called an inaccuracy, but from what I've seen of this game, when I looked through some books on it, is grandmasters very rarely let black, or if they're playing white, they very rarely let black get a pawn to d4. They're almost always, the grandmasters I was watching anyways, pushing this pawn and closing the center in almost every game I saw. So I felt like he was probably making a mistake by giving me the chance to capture that. And here's the thing, after he recaptures, there's ideas no matter which way he captures. Obviously, if he captures the queen, there's ideas of maybe moving my queen out of the way first and then getting a revealed attack. So like, if he puts his queen there, well, my bishop is already looking at his queen through the knight, but his bishop's looking at my queen through the knight. But there's definitely some ideas there. And if he takes back with the knight, like happened in the game, then now I play g5, and I kick his bishop back. And here I like the move I went with. I went with knight c5 here. So this knight here. I'm double attacking the e4 pawn. So I've really kind of, I feel, resolved the center. I took out the d4 pawn, and now I'm questioning the e4 pawn. And I definitely am less afraid of a knight being here than a pawn being here. Although my opponent, when I looked at the game with him later, said he thought that knight was really strong there. And yeah, it's on a central square. But what the thing is, I have e5 and c5 completely for myself, and I get to immediately put my knight there on c5, and I'm, if you notice, double attacking the e4 pawn, and it's only defended once by his pawn, or by his knight on c3. So he has to do something. I was thinking if he pushed, I maybe played knight f to e4, and really started asking his pieces some questions, but he didn't push. He played f3, which is a move you should never play unless you're forced to play, I feel, because this move created some weaknesses for him. Now I go knight h5, a move that wasn't possible before, because before he pushed f3, his bishop was controlling that h5 square. So if I had tried to hop there immediately, I just would have lost my knight. But because now he's blocked off his defense of that square, now I get to come here and I'm attacking that bishop. If he lets me take that bishop, I'm almost definitely going to take it and weaken his king. And it's a knight for a bishop, which this game was played in the classical time control, and it's more true than ever in a classical time control that long-term bishops are better than knights. So if you can trade a knight for a bishop, generally you should. Although I actually get another chance here in a second, and I ultimately decide not to take a bishop. So he goes bishop f2 here. Probably smart, right? He's, denying me the chance to take that bishop. But now I come here, knight f4, and I'm questioning his other bishop. You'll notice his bishop doesn't have any squares it can move to where one of my knights can't take it. But I'm actually not looking at taking that bishop right now. I did think about it for like a minute, but then I was like, my knight is so close to his king right now. If I can just position a couple more pieces around his king, I mean, I'm going to have a huge attack. It's really, really strong to have a piece. So, and this is just like in general in chess, to have a piece so close to your enemy's king. Because like already, if I had a queen, if I can get my queen here, that's already checkmate because of how close I am, you know? So I'm looking at this position and I'm like, how can I get more pieces attacking the king? And let's see, what move are we on? We are on move 13 here. So it's his turn. He played rook e1. And this move took me the longest to decide in the game. It's a very positional move. And it sets up a brilliant move in just 2 more turns from now. So I'll give you guys a second if you want to try to guess what move I played here. I played what Stockfish is calling the best move here. But it took me 30 minutes of just like going through my candidate options to decide that this is the move I wanted to play. The move I played was bishop to e5. All right. Because if you'll notice, this bishop is now aiming at his king, or aiming at the h2 square, which is adjacent to his king. And I'm still trying to set up an idea where I get a queen bishop battery and then I can sack my knight on that g2 square. And actually, this is the exact idea that would play out in the game, and he didn't see it coming. And it's not so easy to see it coming because I think I started with bishop e5. If I had started with queen d2, or queen d7 rather, it might have been more obvious what my plans were. But I started with bishop e5, and then look what he does here. He plays queen d2. He's just playing, a solid development move. And maybe he still only suspects that I'm thinking about taking that bishop, so he's just protecting it another time. Basically, I see this move as a free tempo because now I play queen d7, and now everything is in place for knight takes g2 to work. If he gives me one free move, I'll be able to play knight takes g2. And just to my surprise, he simply plays rook a d1 here. He doesn't see it coming. Now, had he seen it coming, Stockfish says that this is actually, if we go back before rook a d1, had he seen it coming, the move Stockfish wanted him to play here is knight f5 to disconnect my queen battery from being able to actually get into the game, and it attacks my h6 pawn. If he had played this, I had considered maybe he would try this. I think I was going to go king h7, and then maybe I was going to start trading pieces. Maybe I was going to finally take a bishop for a knight. I saw that this was a possibility for him, but I also saw that he was playing really quickly, and I thought that maybe knight takes g2 was just sneaky enough. And as an intermediate player, if your plans aren't like so obvious, a lot of times you can get them off. I think a stronger player probably would have seen the sacrifice as an idea. But he played pretty quickly. I had just spent 30 minutes on bishop e5, just like finding the right square for that piece. And then he responded instantly with queen d2. And then after queen d2, queen d7, he spent maybe a minute before he played rook a d1 and thought I had nothing. And when I looked at it with the game, looked at the game with him afterwards, he said the reason he just played rook a d1 was, just like how any chess player would probably think about it, normal development move. And when I played queen d7, he wasn't looking at anything besides my queen. And I think that's a bit of tunnel vision that happens to people. Is a piece gets moved and your opponent only looks at that piece. They're not looking at the rest of your pieces. He was only looking at my queen, and he was seeing all the squares are covered by his pieces. So he thought this was a bad move for me. He thought my queen can't go anywhere. Well, what he forgot was that I can play knight takes g2. Brilliant move. Double exclamation point, because if he takes it, it's forced checkmate. So he can't take it. And here's the thing. Now he goes knight f5, only move basically, to try to, prevent checkmate. Because here's the thing. If he doesn't go knight f5, if he doesn't take it and he doesn't go knight f5, queen h3 is still threatening checkmate, and it's almost too late to do anything. So he has to go knight f5 now to prevent my queen from getting in there. And he's hitting h6 with check, and now he actually is threatening to take my knight. But here's the thing. Knight takes g2 came with tempo, so I get this rook as well. And that's a free exchange. And I'm thinking he's just going to take back the knight. But first what he does is he goes for a check. Knight takes h6 check. Well, now I go king h7. And I know this looks scary. Like, my king looks pretty open here. But now I have tempo on his knight. So now if he takes mine, I take back. And I'm just up a rook. So he doesn't take my knight. He takes my pawn here on g5. And this looks scary, but mind you, this was a classical game. I had time to look at this, and I saw this position beforehand. And if you notice, all the checks he would like to be able to play are still covered by my pieces. I can simply play queen h3 here. So that's what I played in the game. Play queen h3. And then if you notice here, I'm already threatening mate in 1. I'm threatening queen takes h2 checkmate. So what he did to defend this was, after queen h3, he played f4, trying to disconnect. But here's the thing. After I take back, which I can actually just take f4, I'm threatening the same checkmate, but I'm also threatening another thing too. First of all, I'm obviously threatening his queen, but if he takes my queen, then I have queen g2 checkmate because he never took my knight back. So this position happened in the game, and he defended one checkmate, but he couldn't defend them both. He played bishop f1 to guard the g2 square, but he left the h2 square hanging, and I was able to play queen takes h2 checkmate. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this game. Like I said, I'm going to put like a board in the corner so that you can follow along with my moves. Thanks for watching. Have a good day, / good night, and see you.